Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, a late addition for Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers to the 2025 class as three-star running back Omar Mabson committing to the Auburn Tigers. Now, this kid is kind of a fascinating one to talk about where you look at 24/7 Sports, kind of a lower ranking than you might expect for Auburn to be taken at the running back spot. Look, this is one of those examples that I don't think the recruiting rankings always tell the story. Now, I think it starts with him reclassifying from 2026 to 2025, which I think inherently makes it kind of difficult for these recruiting services to evaluate where they stack. But I think more importantly, anytime you get one of these commitments where there's not a ton of stars next to the name, you go look at, all right, how did the other Power Four programs view a guy like Omar Mabson? All right, 24/7 Sports on three. Y'all might not be that high on Omar Mabson. Well, Alabama offered, took him on an official visit the other week. Florida offered, USC offered. This was a guy that when he did reclassify to that 2025 cycle, the offers from top Power Four programs did come in. And so, although the recruiting services are not extraordinarily high on this kid, you take a look at the other Power Four programs, this was a guy that a lot of coaches and programs wanted to add to their roster. Now, you look at Omar Mabson as a running back, one, the production stands out last 2 years, 2,700 rushing yards. That's something that clearly Auburn is valuing. Hey, our running backs, are they making it happen on Friday nights at the high school ranks? Obviously, Alvin Henderson certainly checked that box. You look at Omar Mabson, another guy that's been extremely productive over the last couple of years. And we're going to get into the film. I think the film, to me, it's kind of fun to watch because this is a running back that it's really hard to quantify what I'm about to say, but you kind of know it when you see it. He's got great feel for the position at running back. And you talk about height, weight, speed, and all the things that you can quantify with track times and what it says on the scale. It's hard to quantify what it looks like to have good feel, vision, and patience at the running back spot. When you watch Omar Mabson, you certainly get that vibe from him. And then you look at the body type, 5'9", up to 210 pounds, really thick lower half, and deals with contact exceptionally well. One of those shorter running backs with that low center of gravity is just kind of bouncing off contact and dealing with contact well. Kind of reminds me, and as a Michigan fan, I'll come out and say this here, kind of reminds me of Blake Corum a little bit in terms of a little bit shorter, a little bit squattier, really good short area quicks and bursts. And let's say the long speed is surprisingly good. When you see Omar Mabson say 5'9", 210, probably not the most speed in a straight line in terms of breakaway speed. You rarely see him get caught from behind from defensive backs. He does have some long speed that I think is intriguing as well. I want to get into the film, talk about where Omar Mabson fits in with this Auburn roster, because you look at Auburn and say you didn't take a running back in the 2024 class. I think it became pretty clear Auburn wanted to take two running backs in 2025. They obviously have Alvin Henderson, now Omar Mabson joining the party. From a roster construction standpoint, I feel like this makes a lot of sense for Auburn. I want to get into Omar Mabson before we do, and as always, to the Auburn fans, it's going to be a really fun next couple of weeks and months. This team's always fun to cover on the recruiting trail, and the amount of support the Auburn fans continue to show as we break down the commitments, it means the world. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into this one. Now, again, the thing that stands out to me the most about Omar Mabson is he's got that squattier frame where he just does not go down at first contact. Sometimes when you get these really, really big, high-waisted, tall running backs, they can kind of get chopped down easily. They don't really stay on their feet all that much. Omar Mabson just deals with contact exceptionally well. And then you turn on the film and you love the patience and how he picks through traffic and reads what's going on in front of him. When you turn on the film, I think the best way to talk about this is turning on the film, right? I could sit here and read off 100-meter track and time records. I could talk about the production. For Omar Mabson, I think it's a little bit more worth, hey, let's get into some of what he did at the high school ranks and break some of it down. To me, it starts with just how well he navigates what's in front of him. I mean, just really good patience, really good in this type of situation. Like when I have to make somebody miss in a phone booth, can I do it? Omar Mabson, contact balance, little nasty stiff arm. And this is what I mean. I mean, he's pulling away from defensive backs here. And so, like 5'9, 210, you don't really assume that's going to be his game, but it kind of is when you turn on the film. You continue to work through it. They like working with these sweeps and pitches outside the tackle. Again, working his way through traffic exceptionally well, being patient, letting his wide receiver set up his block in front of him, making people miss. Burst. I mean, we're talking real burst for a guy that's 5'9, 210. He runs away from defensive backs, and to me, that's extremely impressive because you don't see a lot of running backs with that kind of body and skills, or I should say body and frame have that. Again, really patient. You see this. So he's going to put his hand right on side of that pull and tackle. We're going to let our blocks develop, and then we're going to hit it vertically. Really good feel for the position. And again, making people miss. If you take a bad angle on Omar Mabson and this safety comes down, pretty poor angle here, we're going to run right by you. And then the burst. He's a guy that doesn't, like, you would assume, hey, number 8 is going to make this play here. Look at him get out and just accelerate. You dive into the film with this kid, and again, it's not going to make national media news like Cam Coleman committing to Auburn did. There's a lot to like in terms of what Omar Mabson brings to the table. Again, picking through traffic, putting his hand right in the back of his blockers. We're working, we're weaving, we're making people miss. People are bouncing off the lower half. I like it. I like this one, and you can see why Auburn wanted to add this kid late after what he did in his junior year. Really fluid, natural pass catcher, which is, I think, always something to take note of. Like when you have running backs that are comfortable catching the ball out of the backfield, continue to work through the film, and it just he kind of knows, again, bouncing off contact, hitting the jets when we need to. I'm an Omar Mabson fan. And you look at Auburn, what they're doing on the recruiting trail. The one thing that stands out to me, overall 6th 2025 class, top 5 in the transfer portal. To me, this is what you want it to look. You talk about this modern era of college football and say, we still know high school recruiting is king. If you want to consistently win national championships, or at least consistently compete for national championships, you damn well be better recruiting the high school ranks. Okay, we're top 8 pretty consistently under Hugh Freeze. Then you look at the transfer portal ranks and say top 5. We are supplementing what we're doing on the high school ranks with what we're doing in the transfer portal. That to me is what you want it to look like. And you talk about Hugh Freeze, and this is something we talk about all the time. Yes, the first 2 years for Hugh Freeze and Auburn, it probably has not been expectations. It is probably the most fair way to say it. He's building something sustainable at Auburn. And at the very least, what you can say about Auburn is they are going to have rosters that can compete at the highest level of the sport. That's the prerequisite. We'll see if it comes together on the football field. If you don't have the talent to get into the door, you ain't joining the party. And Auburn's getting into the party with what they have on the roster. Now, can it come together on Saturdays in the fall is kind of the conversation we're going to have now. Really like what Hugh Freeze is doing in terms of talent acquisition and roster construction. And we talk about it all the time. If Jackson Arnold hits for Auburn, this is going to be a team that is not just winning 8 football games. It's going to be competing for an SEC championship in the 2025 season. We'll see how it plays out. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.